I think you learn it in your daily interactions. As the executive chef of a luxury collection in India, I have 150 people who I work with. And I think we learn each day with the way we interact with each other and what we take back at the end of the day.
Okay.
I also trained in a large kitchen, about 120 cooks, and I think that the best management techniques, you kind of look at the result of the direction that was given, and if people respond favorably and produce good food or work environments, then I would follow that lead.
Terrific.
I think if you've got a very good mentor, it certainly helps. For most of us in South Africa, it's a case of we had somebody like Billy Gallagher, who we could always sort of look to for advice and guidance and that.
How do you find a great mentor? How have you found your mentors in your career? Just push the button, the green button.
I think it's anybody who is ahead of you in your career, in your profession, somebody you admire, somebody who has time for you and who takes that little effort to encourage you on.
And in Finland, how have you found mentors?
Well, I've been traveling around the world for past 30 years. So I had so many mentors, one in every country, I think. And now when I'm settled down and working for the president of Finland, we are republic. And she is very democratic, and we have just about 50-50 person working for the presidential palace and summer house and the residence. So about mentors, I could name one. It's Mr. Metz here.
There was a great story. There's a woman that's studied all of the freely elected female leaders in the world. And I'm thinking the story is about the president of Finland. And she was actually speaking to a second grade class. And a little boy raised his hand and he said, "Do you think there's any possibility that a man could be president?" I thought that was a great perspective, because if you only see one thing, that's what you think is your possibility. And I think our job in the hospitality industry, and where there might be an inequity, is to think beyond that. Think beyond to how it could be bigger and better. So thinking about beyond bigger and better, what words of wisdom do you give to women who are working with you and for you and being a role model for them? Push the button.
To do their best, to keep on going, to learn, and to try to be higher every time.
Great, perfect. What other advice would you give to women?
Basically say that you need to put your head down and just get on with it. There's no special favors in any job. So get on with it and you'll get your rewards at the end.
In getting on with it, if people really feel it's an environment that they are, it's so difficult, it's so hard, it's so hostile, how do you get beyond that?
Well, you can either change the situation by moving to a different environment, or you can bring it to the attention of the people that are in the senior positions. I firmly believe that people aren't that unrealistic that they will not consider it if it's brought to them in the correct manner as well.
Yeah. And I think that's, oftentimes we have what we call silent arguments, where we have this argument that we have with somebody, but we don't tell them that there's a problem. And I think getting on with it requires you to be able to say, this isn't working for me. And I don't think that offends anybody. Yeah, great. Any other words of wisdom to people coming up in their career? Sure.
I think that you honestly get what you give. So if you're showing respect to the people around you and you're confident, and it just comes right back. And I think the seriousness, that you're serious at what and committed to what you want to achieve, then the returns are, they're great. They could be.
Terrific.
One thing I want to say, doesn't matter if you are women or a man, you have to earn your respect. Nobody's give it to you.
And how have you earned respect from people in the past? What does that look like? How do you do that?
With your good example, do best you can, or sometimes you have to do better when you're best, and hope that that's enough, and usually it is.
Perfect. Anne?
Sorry. I think the question I'd like to ask, maybe for every panelist to answer, is if in your operation, either the one you're currently in now or maybe one you've just been recently in your past, what's one thing in that operation that could be done differently that would make the operation more conducive to have women and more diversity in the kitchen? Because I think that that's something I'd like the audience to hear as we're looking to have in WACS 2010 or 2012, instead of 10% women here, 20 or 30. So how, what's it going to take to get more women in the kitchens? Or more diversity, either or. Everybody, answer. One at a time, go.
Well, as you pointed out, I think it's record registration for student enrollment in culinary schools across the, definitely across North America, but then they're not staying in the industry. So to get them, I think that one of the key things for the future is for the education or the schools to tie into industry at a very early level. So there's no big surprises, because I think the Food Network definitely has had some sort of slant on that. So they come in with some ideas, and then it's not the reality that they want, and they kind of check out pretty early. So I think a tie-in earlier on in the education process with industry would be helpful.
So a reality check. So it's not all about, TV.
Right.
Yeah.
I'd like to collaborate on that. I think it's also, like she said very rightly, I think we need to give them we need to do a lot of career pathing with them. I don't think they know what really lies ahead, and they come in with some kind of an illusion and leave very disillusioned very quickly. So it's a lot of mentoring, it's a lot of career pathing, it's a lot of amelioration that I think would work.
So I guess what I would like to say to that is the same. If we're seeing now in America, and this is probably also true all across the world, that there are more and more culinary students, and we know that there are more and more hospitality positions open, and just in America we're going to need 30,000 a year for the next 10 years. And if we're seeing such a dropout rate in the first 5 years in the industry, then I guess I would challenge all of us to think about what we're going to do about that. Because when we look around at this conference, and I would say the same at the American Culinary in the States, is, most of us are getting older, and yeah, we have the students, but it's that middle group. We get the young students to come, and we get the old ones of us to come, and where are those middle of the road people who are going to keep this industry growing? And whether it's women telling me that it's too hard to have a family and be a chef, or whether it's young students just thinking it's too hard to be in the industry, I think the industry has to come into the 21st century and realize that we're not breeding slaves, that what we're breeding is employees, and we need to figure out a way, as all other industries have done, to make the food service industry more family focused and family balanced, instead of this thing where you're going to give your life to your career and then all of a sudden you wake up and you're done. So I think that no matter where we are in the world, we have to really think about that.
I'd like to throw a question to the panel and to ask you, how have you found work-life balance? How have you found balance between your hours and your job and your family.